Hey, welcome back to Jamieson's Repair Shop. Part 6, seat pedestal. Been a long time getting this seat pedestal done. It is a large portion of this car though. You have to look at the scale of what's happening here. And I often wonder how many of these restorations that were done that people skipped over that, because it is a large section to take out. But it is a section that provides support to this car, and this being a convertible, I didn't really want to skip it over. So now that we got most of it in our rear view mirror, let's finish it up today. All right, underneath the car, I gotta mark off all this stuff. I'm probably not gonna be able to do it in video at the same time, but that's okay. You get the gist of it. This is the frame rail. I got all the spot welds. I marked them when I drilled them, when I did the removal of it. So I got all the original points. Not a big deal anyway, but I could put a little pierce mark there so I can see where the original ones were. Then I'm gonna mark along this seam here. My finger. There we are. This seam I gotta mark along here, right over to the pinch weld, and this is where it goes underneath. You can see where it needs to be. I hadn't tacked it up, hadn't plug welded up, because I knew I'd have to come over top of this. And this is the area here that'll all have to be rust treated. I did all this. It's got rust treatment on it, even though you can't tell right now, but it is rust treated. And I actually painted up underneath that lip, and I'm going to do the same on this one. And a little bit of work right there. So I'm going to, on the top, let's go up top and I'll show you what I'm doing up there. Okay, on the top side, this is the one I'll be cutting. I'll be marking from underneath, so I'll probably end up losing a portion of this. That's fine. It's just in there a little tiny bit. And then up here I wanted to take as much of the old steel away as I could, so this is what I've done. Though this is all solid, so I have marked it there. So I can cut along that line, that felt line, but leave it in place, so it'll give me a tight fit. That's pretty much it. The rest is just, after that, over there we'll just be fitting it as I go. So let me get her marked up underneath there. Then we'll get this back out, and then I can drill the spot weld holes. There'll be a whole bunch of holes through here. I'll put little dots from the other side. And we should be ready then to rust treat under here. Get some red oxide underneath there. Red oxide between where the frame rail and the frame rail goes on that side, bottom side of that, so you won't be able to get in there after it's done. All right. There we are. The only cut I'll be making up here is this line there. Get a little bit of welding to do on that first, on that frame rail. Get that patched up a bit where I cut into it prematurely with the zip cut. Over here, got the spot plug weld holes all marked off, so they'll have to be all drilled out. And this is the edge that I showed on the inside. That's the backward edge, rear edge. So let me get this all drilled out, cleaned up some, give some rub with some sandpaper, and then I'll prime it. And also I got to put some plug weld holes in here too, I almost forgot. And then we'll do the same there. We have to clean it up, prime it, and get some red oxide on that section there. But actually this will be here. So we'll get the red oxide on this side, so that'll be underneath that framer, onto that outer support. There we are, all the plug weld holes in, a little bit of grinding marks so the primer sticks well. Same there, same there. I will, this one here, this line, I'm going to cut and butt that. So let me get some primer on this. And then I'm going to tackle get it ready to dry, and then I'll tackle the frame rail. There she is, primed up. Primed there, that's the frame rail part. primed underneath the inner structure section on the other side of this. The rest will get done when the floor and everything gets all painted. This is the stuff that will get buried underneath and won't be able to get at it again. So now on to the inner structure. Clean that up and get it rust treated and primed. Get that inner structure cleaned up, sprayed it with some rust converter. Starting to turn black already. De-rusted it up pretty darn good, I think. This edge here, I cleaned up some, just red oxide still left on it there. This undercoating, if you're working on these cars, doing any welding, which I will be up in here, get rid of all that. It'll catch on fire on you. And you don't want any fires. It's an asphalt, so it's gonna burn. So yeah, make sure you clean up all that old asphalt stuff off anyway, at least. And I gotta bend that back up. But that's her. Next step, put the pan in, burn the pan in. All right, panels all have been primed. As you can see, in place again. You can see I went ahead and primed a whole bunch of the other areas. Areas that I'll have a little bit of welding left to do, but I can touch up the primer when I want. I just thought it would look better if it was done. I went over there as well. Something about a freshly primed or painted area makes it look good. But anyway, I've got a jack under this edge right here to bring this lip up. So I got it already a little bit wider gap maybe than I need, but if I take this up a little bit higher and I push down on the old metal, that'll bring that over. I'm trying to keep it as tight as I can to tighten up this floor pan. This floor pan here has been stretched from being lifted with a forklift, and there's just different things going on there. It got kind of distorted. So if I can put some shrink in this weld here, which will happen automatically as soon as you start welding on it, and you put lots of heat in it, it'll shrink that down. So hopefully it'll pull a little bit of that stretch out of this pan right here. That's one side burnt in. I have to go under and burn. I'll drop it down. I still have room. I'll drop it down. I'm going to weld both sides the best I can. I'll do the both sides on this as well. But before I go underneath and do all that, I want to get this cut and butted in. That's hot work. Anyway, both sides burnt in. Have the tunnel left to do. Well, I'll turn it around and show you. You can see it on time lapse, but let's take a little look at what the plan is going forward and what struggles I had with this. Well, there she is. She's in. This one struggle was that piece. I don't know how I got that confused. I was thinking it was on this, but it's the piece that went underneath that I needed to get out of there, and I had spot welded that previously to the frame rail, so that became a bit of an issue. It's fixed up now, but I'll have to do some welding underneath there. I had to cut a section of the frame, about a 1/4 of an inch of the frame rail out. Not all of it, just of the flange. But I'll fix it. Really pretty straightforward for cutting, but on this side, make sure your old metal's not sticking to your new welds. This went smooth. There was nothing really, just welding along. It looks like it may have pulled the floor in some. I'm going to tap this back down. And you'll notice I used a dolly, hammer and dolly. Don't be afraid to bring out different tools. I mean, that comes in handy to, you know, to seat the metal back down flush again. So remember, you have other options there. Don't just tear into it and think you can only do it with a sledgehammer and a welding torch. But anyway, so now up there, as you saw over here, I curled that in some, and I'll just continue to curl that over in there. I'll just keep tapping it down until I get it to fit. I may have to do a little cut over and up just to set it down in this ridge here, because that metal is good. So just bring it over a bit and then it'll settle right down. The same with here. You can see this ridge right here. So if I can cut it right here and then bring it over, it'll start settling in. And that's what I'll do over here too. But other than that, that's putting in the floor pan under the seat pedestal. I'll have to weld the bottom still. The bottom needs to be welded actually on both sides, and I went ahead and primed the other side, and I shouldn't have, because I knew I didn't prime it for a reason, because I didn't weld the underneath of it yet. I hate underneath welding. I hate welding above my head. The last time I was welding upside down, and I forget where it was. It may have been on the hardtop, but anyway, a piece of slag went right inside my ear, hot burning slag, right inside and right in to the ear tubes. I could feel it in there for days, and I couldn't get at it with anything, and I wasn't going to go to the doctor. But that's the kind of stuff you get from welding upside down. That's the reason I want to build a rotisserie, because there's a lot of underneath work that still needs to get done, and I'm too old for laying on my back doing it. That's a young man's job. All right, let's get back at this. But I get the seat pedestal in at some point. Well, that's one patch panel welded in from the top anyway. And I just did what I said I was going to do over here. I just went around and kept pushing it in, cutting it as it went. Got the plug welds in for the frame rail. Went well. Yeah, all in all, went pretty good. I'm not going to grind any of the top of this. I want to leave as much weld as I can. Now I will grind if it's in the way of putting in the seat pedestal. So I'm going to grab that right now and just kind of see how much interference is with all that weld on there. It should only be where the flanges are, and then I can mark them. And it'll be the same on the other side. Alright, she's coming along pretty good. Got some clamps on it, but I noticed up in here for the transmission tunnel it's high. These are my guide. These are the console brackets. So this has to come down on the front about a 1/4 of an inch, and about the same in the back. The other side about the same. Has to come down some. It's not quite as bad though. Just looking at it, maybe 1/8 of an inch on the back and 1/4 on the front. So there's some work to be done. This tunnel needs to be pushed back out. I forgot about this when I was taking it off. I collapsed it a little bit, so I'll have to go up underneath and pound that back out. That'll bring it up to meet it a little better. But that's her coming along pretty good. I think if I put some long bolts in there, I can suck that that seat pedestal down to the frame rail. And it could be a little high in that frame rail on this side. Notice it kind of sprung up when I had it off. It was a little high there, so I can probably jack down, put a beam across underneath and pull down. We'll get her. There's always a way. Well, I went and fixed up the flanges on the seat pedestal. I'm going to give them a little bit of red oxide. And then I have to put a whole series of plug weld holes in those. and then get ready to install it. Alright, before I install the seat pedestal, and I have the red oxide out for the seat pedestal flanges, I'm going to give this a clean, and then I'm going to give this a coat of red oxide, because it has to be done before I put the seat pedestal back in. Otherwise, how do you get at it? Alright, so I'm going to get that done. It'll look like that over there. Well, there she is. She's not plug welded in yet. I did some plug welding on the edge to keep the alignment. That's why I kept those old plug weld holes or spot weld holes. They're perfect for alignment. And the same with over there. So I've got it bolted down with some 1/2-inch bolts, 4 inches long. It's down fairly tight. Couple spots I'll probably have to put right in there. I'll have to jack it up from underneath. The problem I'm having right now is getting this back. It needs to come back about, well, just a shimmy. It's just a tiny bit, and then I gotta put, again, because I keep forgetting to do it, is to go underneath and push that all back up. So that's not bad. You can see how much it's out. You can see where the old spot weld was, so I would like to see that lined up, and I might be able to just put an alignment tool in, drill one of those out, put an alignment bar in, and that may be all it takes, even if I have to drill a new hole. But yeah, that's her. I suppose you could hang around and watch me plug weld all this, but really I don't see the point. That's all it's left to do really, is align that little bit up and plug weld it all in, and that will be the seat pedestal. Well, that's been a battle, hasn't it? That darned old seat pedestal. But you know what? It had to get done. I would love to have skipped over it. Nick pushed me a bit to do it, and once I pulled it off, I realized, yes, that needs to get done. That's like I said in the last video, or earlier in this video, I'm not sure, it's a critical part of this car. And this actually is a torque box in itself. Wraps from one side to the other, ties it all together. Speaking of torque boxes, that's where we're going next. I'll get this burnt in, and then we'll go over and we'll start that rear driver's side torque box. And the reason I'm doing all of these torque boxes ahead, I want to get this car ready to go on a rotisserie. Get it stable enough so it doesn't fold on me when I get it on a rotisserie. I feel it's getting very close. Now, those aprons in the front, they don't seem like much, but they are part of the structure. So before we get the rotisserie wound up, which I have to make yet, before we get this thing on a rotisserie, those aprons need to go in. And there's some supports that go along the outer apron area back to the body. It's just bent metal. It's easy to work with. Anyway, Friday, whatever day it is, the end of September, Friday something. This is going to be the end of this video, and I'll weld those in when I get a chance. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks for watching.